So you're saying that podcasts and alcohol make perfect sense to you? It's just the way art and alcohol makes perfect sense to me.
Yes, exactly. We're on the same page, exactly, yeah.
Where arts and culture summits the airwaves, this is the Nine Rails Arts Podcast. I am R. Brandon Long alongside Todd Obendorfer, and we are the Banyan Collective, arts and adventure podcasting since 2010. This episode includes an interview with artists behind the latest installment at the Eccles Community Arts Center, Relative Truth. The artists are Collin Noortmann Chandler, Mark Sewell, and Chris Miller. We also sat down with Susan Campbell and Dr. Carey Campbell, Associate Professor of Music at Weber State University, to chat about Next Ensemble and their upcoming 55-minute holiday opera, Amahl. It was super awesome to have Amy Wicks invite us over to her home, to her back porch, which we counted 9 rails on, her not back porch, back deck.
So how long have we been friends with Amy Wicks?
Oh, a long time.
Long time.
Years, yeah.
This is my first time I've been over to her house. I don't even know. And she is probably about 3 minutes from where I live.
She really is, yeah. So we drove the van there because we didn't know what to expect. If we were going to do the podcast in the van or back on her deck, which had 9 rails on it, which was pretty great. Yeah, it's being repaired, and there are 9 rails left in the deck.
But once we saw this back deck, I'm like, and the weather was beautiful. No, we're not doing the van. We are setting up on the porch out there.
And Amy fed us like kings. It was amazing. We had so much food.
Tapas.
Yeah.
After tapas, after delicious beer, after tapas, and then brought out so many drinks. It was just a dinner party podcast.
And we got to meet as it should be, by the way.
I think that's the new trend for sure.
And we got to meet the artists behind the their new installment at the Eccles Community Arts Center, Relative Truth. Artists Collin Noortmann Chandler, Mark Sewell, and Chris Miller, and we talked to them for a while back there on the deck to get to know, what they had to go through to put this piece together, which was super interesting.
It was a great introduction. I had sort of knew them maybe remotely through some people, and so we were really getting to know each other as well. Super excited about this particular interview. I think you guys will enjoy it as well. It goes through the end of November, so it has already been going for a few weeks now. Really, really good response. Really unusual show from what I've understood for the space, the Eccles Community Arts Center.
So this is our interview with Collin Noortmann Chandler, Mark Sewell, and Chris Miller.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We are on, what are we going to call this? We're going to call this Wick Porch.
The Wick Porch. The Wick Porch.
Whenever possible, we do like to podcast from Wicca Porch. Yeah?
I think that's a religion, but yeah.
But I am not alone. I am with Brandon, of course, who does an amazing job with the sounds and everything.
I'm drinking beer.
You are drinking beer?
Yeah.
Anything in particular, or just
Deschutes Mirror Pond Pale Ale.
That's a nice, especially good.
It's pretty good
with snacks and food and stuff like that. But I'm sitting down with Collin Noortmann Chandler, Mark Sewell, and Chris Miller, and we're going to talk about Relative Truth.
Not in that order, actually.
No, we're gonna.
But yeah.
Well, yeah, but there's no microphone on us. But thank you so much for that. Yeah, gentlemen, say hello.
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 Okay,
nice
there's
to be
proof
here.
I'm not alone. Yeah.
Just
going to be quiet the whole time. Oh, no. All right, so this is going to be a little bit, I'll try to eat off, microphone just a little bit, but there are some amazing snacks out here. So that's what's
Amy
happening
Wicks, thanks so much for
we've been
inviting
with
us.
tapas.
Yeah, to her house.
Thank you, Amy.
The food just keeps coming, and I don't even know.
This is great.
She spent her summer in Spain, and we are reaping the benefits.
So do we do the podcast first, or do we eat?
I think it's going to happen at the same time.
Yeah.
That'll work.
I think the first thing we should do probably is get to know who we're talking to. Collin, let's start with you. So, artist first and foremost. We don't have to talk about this particular exhibit, but let's get to know you a little bit. So, what should we know?
So, came to art late in life. Actually, all three of us, if anybody listening to this were able to see us, would notice we're a little long in the tooth.
I think it goes all around the table.
We're not.
Let's be honest.
We're not recent art school grads. This is something that maybe we discovered early in life, but didn't really come to until later. I didn't come to it till I was 43 and walking through the French Quarter, and it was just horribly, horribly hot. And we kept going from gallery to gallery because they were air conditioned.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And by the end,
probably had wine or something.
Well, it was the French Quarter.
Yeah,
it's the only place where I've ever had a policeman ask me why I didn't have a drink in my hand.
That's pretty good.
That was. We go back often now. No, at the end of that trip, I turned to Lori, my wife, and said, "I think I want to paint." And it probably wouldn't have come to anything because I never took so much as an art class in high school. But that fall, Shanna Coons, who is sort of an institution in Ogden, said she was going to take on new students. And that fall, I took her watercolor class, Introduction to Watercolor, and it turned out. So
the first time? You just nailed it the first time?
I don't like to... I have people who took that class with me, and they're a little bitter.
You got to be honest with yourself sometimes, though.
But, it became an instant obsession, and then 4 years ago, I just turned it into a full-time job.
Did you know a material, like what you wanted to say before you even started with the watercolor? Because normally it's like, I want to be an artist. There must have been something. I mean, you had to get something out. It was something you wanted to say on...
frankly, painting seems safer than opening my mouth because my mouth gets me into trouble.
Amen to that.
Yep.
Yeah. I think we can all vouch for that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, we do that often here as a podcast.
So 4 years.
4 years full-time. I decided at one point, just before my first big Ogden solo show, which was Whitespace. I was actually Whitespace's last show. I don't know what that said, but
you said first and last.
It was my. It was. No, it was not first and last.
Okay.
But
yeah.
It was. I decided shortly before that I didn't want to. I didn't want to limit myself to one thing. So I invented this conceit where I paint under 3 signatures. It gives me a lot of latitude for what I paint.
3 personality type things? Are we going?
Yeah, in fact, that first show was called Persona. Intentional, or how do I phrase it? Basically, I said it was intentional multi-personality disorder.
And an artist can get by with this.
Yeah,
this is the thing, yeah. So which one are we seeing for Relative Truth?
You'll see all 3. The large pieces are mostly Chandler pieces. They're kind of typified by industrial still life that usually has some kind of psychological metaphor involved. Then Noortmann tends to be either abstract or kind of confrontive. And the
I should have asked who am I talking to right now. Just to be safe. I'm seeing a blend is what I'm probably saying.
If I'm pointing my fork at you, it's Noortmann.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then Collin is playful. He's the kid. He's the guy who didn't get to be that artist in 4th grade.
Collin's playing like catch up a little. I did that. Well, I guess I kept the full Todd Oberndorfer though. I think you're onto something though. I do.
I'm a healthier person now.
I love it. Chris, let's talk about you. Yes, make yourself comfy, but scoot on in.
So, I guess from the art perspective,
or we can talk about something else entirely. Whatever works for you. What you're watching on TV, what you're listening to.
Michigan.
Well, actually, I did my first photography class was at University of Michigan, and that was really good.
Did you live up there for a bit?
Yeah. I was in Ann Arbor for about 7 years working in student.
You grew up everywhere.
Yeah, I've been bouncing around a lot.
Brazil and Florida.
Is that one of those one step ahead type situations? Or? Maybe we can't talk about that.
No, fortunately, no. But yeah, we've been out here in Utah. Kathy and I have been out here in Utah for 14 years now.
So how far back are we talking with the art? As a youngster?
Really? Let's see. So yeah, photography, University of Michigan, and it wasn't a major or anything, but it was early 80s.
All right.
All darkroom, no digital. So, yeah.
Is that how you still do it? Have you moved into the world? Or?
I'm doing it completely. As you'll see from the exhibit pieces are clearly going to illustrate. I've shifted completely digital.
But that being said, so I'm a outreach manager and advisor over at Department of Visual Art and Design at Weber State. So that's what I do. And so we still, our photography program, which Brandon kind of vouched for, you did a minor over there, right? Yep. But we do teach on the analog side, and it's still very strong. And as far as the benefits, I'm not a photographer, of still learning kind of the old way. You know?
I took the last photo, what I thought was the last photo too in analog, but I think they brought it back actually.
But even though you've switched into the digital realm, all of your experience working and developing and everything, that's made you the photographer you are?
I think, starting out in the analog or film mode, I think you gain a nice appreciation for working with tones and working with light that you might not. I mean, you'll get that through digital too, and I'm sure Mark can weigh in on this too. But I think when you're working with a film, I think it's the tonality of your final production. You really have to force yourself to capture tones carefully in a darkroom.
And that's kind of what I try to tell these new art students that are coming through, with the benefits of still learning the other, even if you spend your life in the digital realm, you know?
I'm seeing an analogy. I mentioned that I started with Shanna Kuhn's watercolor class, and she starts all her students in watercolor. And if you ask her why, she'll just tell you it's because it's unforgiving. And she says if you start students in oil, they'll just paint over it and paint over it and paint over it. And I think probably with film, you can't just go through rolls and rolls and rolls of film like you can just fill up a hard drive.
You can, but you're going to spend a lot of money. You know, it's funny that you make that analogy with unforgiving. I think black and white photography is very unforgiving because color is sexy. If you put out a red sunset or sunrise, most people get blown away by the color. It's rather crude, but I like to tell people it sells. Saturation, like sex, sells. Black and white, you really have to capture the essence. Chris was talking about tones, form, composition, and you can't hide behind color. So I think that black and white photography, properly done, is timeless. I think it's a thing of beauty. I have nothing against color. I do shoot color, but black and white is really my bread and butter, especially when I started out in photography.
And as far as bread and butter, it's good to eat as a photographer, so that's good, yeah.
That is true. What's the difference between doing photography full-time and, large pepperoni pizzas? Large pepperoni pizza feeds a family of 4.
Yeah.
Well said, sir.
There is a real meaning to the term starving artist. But I do work. I'm retired Air Force. I work at Hill Air Force Base as a government drone. But in my free time here, I do my photography. And I started in Germany, which is a totally different landscape. I'd like to tell people, if the Utah landscape screams at you, the Germany landscape whispers to you. And most of my awards actually are from Germany. I have some here too, but mostly Germany.
Why is that?
You know, actually, I'll be honest. The transition, 95% of my photography in Germany was black and white. But you have to be true to the image. And sometimes here, especially in Utah, the color is the true manifestation or the best way to express what I feel. And you have to, if it doesn't work in black and white, it doesn't work in black and white. But if it works in black and white here, I always prefer to use it. I prefer the tonalities. To me, black and white, I consider art because it's a step away from reality. And when I shoot my photography, I am not out there to replicate reality. That's called a snapshot. Anybody can do that.
Hell, I can do that. In fact, that's probably a majority of what I take. But that's a really good point as far as the differences between everybody, you know, being a photographer and those
Hold
that
cell phone
truly
up.
are a
Did you just
photographer.
wave your cell phone at the microphone?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and thank you for pointing that out as well. Yeah.
I think that's fascinating. The phones are there. I think you can take some brilliant pictures with those phones. And I've seen brilliant pictures with the phones. And you're right. Everybody is a photographer. I'm a dying breed. A dedicated camera like that Nikon sitting there, that's going away. It's the people like us. The companies have abandoned the lower market. What they're doing now is going after the photographers that shoot full time. And with photographers, they don't make their money or their living by actually selling their prints. The big boys do it by tours. Because if they were still trying to sell their prints only, they would be starving. So that's how they get through, teaching. Just like painting or painters.
How's photography going as a whole? I'll tell you one thing, and I only bring this up. I'm not a photographer, but as an advisor, knowing that if I see a student that comes through and it's showing interest in photography, it's rare. It's rarer. You know, it seems like most of our students that come through are graphic design students. A lot of graphic design students, right? Then we sort of get into some traditional painting students, 3D is in there, and then photography is sometimes, you know. And so it excites me, but at the same point, you know, I don't know. I think that there's something special about learning it in art school still. And hopefully it's something that doesn't go away.
I hope not. I think that however you want to express yourself, funnily enough, a lot of people don't know that the program Photoshop was actually designed for
What?
the visual guys, what y'all are doing.
Graphic
It was
design
not
student.
designed for photography.
Do you know that they didn't? I was in my last year of photo school up at Weber State when Photoshop came up to our professor, and he said, "Who in here doesn't know how to use Photoshop?" No, they didn't teach it up. They don't teach it up there. And then we did a crash course on it. But that's something that's assumed that they just learn it on the side essentially. So now I don't know if they teach it now, but that was about 6
They do
years
now
ago.
with the graphic design program,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's required with the photo students, but it
Right,
is
right.
somewhat assumed, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. All right, so let's talk about relative truth. That'd be all right? That seems appropriate, I think.
on a Sunday
Yeah,
with beers.
Oh, you had to go there.
yeah, I think we did point that out.
We've actually tried to be really careful with this show, you know, and not push people's buttons with this show. The theme is relative truth, and it's a timely subject. But we wanted to have a conversation that people could have, and get engaged in without shouting at each other.
Yeah, I like that. So the idea behind this is who started it? Was a collective thing? It just came to you all three in a dream at the same time?
No,
Collin started it.
Now, was this Collin? Was this Noortmann? Was this Chandler? Was this... When the ideas come to you, is it specific?
no. No, and people keep asking me about this. Who am I talking to now? You asked me earlier. You know, this is a good way. I have a feeling that when you're doing a podcast for 9 Rails, or you're doing one of the other podcasts you're doing, you switch gears a little bit.
Oh, no, I see where you're coming from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is a handy way for me to just give myself range and give people access to that range. But this show started because my daughter's getting married in November. And
Congratulations.
Yep. And great guy, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and November's going to be a crazy month for me.
So you thought, hey,
you know what? I did not think this. This was not me. My daughter came to me and said, Dad, I'm getting married. We're going to hold it at Union Station. You should have a show there. And I was like, sweetheart, it's your wedding. This is your time. I don't want to have a show going on at your time. She said, Dad, it's what I want. Okay. And I went to Daniel, who was still at Union Station, and he said, we're booked up through next year. I said, okay. So I went to Eccles, and I said, I need a show in November. And they said, okay. And
I'm excited for it to be there, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I am too. It's a great place. It's an iconic part of Ogden Arts. That was on a Thursday or Friday. Over the weekend, I was thinking about it, and I thought, I've done solo shows in Ogden, and I had this idea, and I went back to Pat on Monday, and I said, I know you we talked about this, and if you want me to do a solo show, I'll do a solo show. But I really want to do a show with these two guys, and I would like it to focus on the Swift building. I'd like to artistically document the Swift building before they tear it down. And he didn't bat an eyelash. He said, yeah, great, sure. And then I called these two guys, and they were all over it. And then the city totally shut us down.
Meaning, now, were they the only one that could allow access, or how does? What do you mean?
they own it. They bought it. And I went to redevelopment, and they also did not bat an eye. They shut me down immediately. And
did they say why or anything?
Yeah, they said why. They said that that when they purchased it, they made a commitment to the previous owner that they wouldn't let anybody in there, and that it was dangerous, and they couldn't take the liability, and they wanted to protect us.
Sounds fair.
So, well, it did not sound fair to me.
Collin's persistent.
I was a little persistent. I first asked them for the purchase contract, showing that they had actually promised this, and they said, well, it was a verbal commitment. And I said, well, come on now. And they said, well, it's not safe. And I drafted a waiver, and I took it to a lawyer and had them look at it, and I said, well, it looks good to me. And then I sent it to the mayor, the city attorney, and a couple of people in redevelopment, and I guess they held a meeting and had their secretary call me and say no. And finally, we just got together on a Monday morning, had breakfast, and we decided we were just going to show up at City Hall and say, you have to talk to us. And at first they didn't. I actually showed up with a body cam because
yes, he did.
It's like, you have to talk to us. Come on, I pay property taxes. And finally they gave us, we had decided that, if the Swift building was such a problem, maybe the city would be interested if we could bring attention to a bunch of transitional properties, Swift building, the old Wells Fargo for security building, the Rio Grande, the Denver Rio Grande platform station, a few others, and the Exchange building was on that list. And they gave us, they gave us the number of the guy they had just sold the Exchange building to, and they gave us some contacts for the other ones. We walked out that morning and immediately called the new owner, and there was some horse trading, but he gave us 24 hours. He gave us the keys for 24 hours.
You got a horse for 24 hours.
We got a horse for 24 hours. And we showed up, and we spent all day there. And we had no idea at that time it was going to be it would be the only place we took pictures of and based the show on. We thought it was going to be a much different show. But we ran into so much pushback on getting into these other buildings and into the Swift building that finally we ran out of time. Photographers, it may be a little different, but I'm a painter. It takes time to paint.
Yes, sir, it does, yeah.
And so I sat down with these guys and said, here's an idea. What if we just take what we have, this one building, on this one day, and we create a show where we highlight who we are, what we brought to that space, what impressed us while we were there, and what we took away from it. and create a show that is unique. Create a show about how different people with different skills and sensibilities walk into the same space and come away with completely different things.
What kind of conversations did you have pre? I'm getting the impression you really didn't have much as far as deciding of how you're going to shoot, what you're going to shoot. It seems like the direction this story is going is that you kind of went in with your own sensibilities, with your own sort of thoughts.
I think it was a fluid process, and you're right. Our options really got narrowed down, and we did do some horse trading, but we got in there. But to be honest with you, I think this building gives us an opportunity to still express our artistic visions. It's like watching that's maybe a bad analogy. It's like watching a car accident, and you got 3 people, and you're going to get 3 different stories. I will say that it is pretty amazing that we were all in the same building. And it's like we looked at each other's work, and it's like, I was 2 feet from you. I didn't see that. Oh, yeah, it was right there. No, I didn't see it. So I think that makes this fascinating. Of course, you got 2 photographers, but you also have somebody that is going to paint this. Collin's painting this. So this is really unique. I think Ogden, and I don't think Ogden has hosted a show like this. So we're pretty excited.
And then let me also point out, too, that, Mark, you and Chris are 2 very different photographers.
Yes.
Can we kind of separate that as far as what your, kind of your specialties are, what your visions are, as far as what we're going to see after the fact?
Yeah, Collin, I think in the brochure you called me a digital artist, actually. I think, but anyway, I won't pin you down. But yeah, I think in this show, given the nature of the building, the photography I've been doing and I did for this has been much more improvisational and kind of ambiguous, layering up different films, almost analogous to the oil painting. When you said you cover things, I've actually, in this exhibit, been layering up different color images on top of each other, not knowing how they're going to turn out.
Brilliant.
And so it's
absolutely brilliant.
Mark and I have been there as he's been printing some of these things up, and we've been a little jealous. We're like, I don't know if I want my work next to this.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
That's a good question, actually, because I'm a technician. Actually, by trade, I'm a computer guy. For me, technicality is very important. I find Chris far more. Yes. Yeah, I like that. I really like his interpretations. Absolutely brilliant photography. And, of course, I'm biased, but I've also seen some of Collin's paintings, and they're absolutely brilliant. I know I sound like I'm making a plug, and I am, but I'm also speaking the truth. I think if you come to the show, I think you will not leave bored or disappointed. It was fun. It was a fun shoot.
Well, it was fun to see the way we came away and took things that, in some cases we all took pictures of some things that just pop out at you. You couldn't help but notice them. But what we did with them is utterly different.
Night and day.
I knew when I went in that at some point I would pick one subject and I would paint it from the perspective of all 3 of those signatures, all 3 of those persona. That was a lot of fun. But it was even more fun to see what Chris did with the friezes, and what I haven't actually seen what you've done with the friezes. Friezes are they're kind of like gargoyles, but they're flat. They're these faces. It was a livestock business exchange. So up in the top of the building on the outside, there are pigs and sheep and horses, and this was supposed to be a business center and a focal point for commerce in Ogden, and it was for a long time.
These animals were going to the spa. They were on their way to the spa.
That's what they call that. Yeah,
mm-hmm. Yeah. And for me, I didn't paint them. I decided not to paint them. I sometimes play with concrete, and I do it. I sort of paint with concrete, and so I created my own friezes. It's a Collin piece, and I added a human to it, and that's a fun piece. But
I think that's interesting because it highlights the difference between the photographer and the painter. A photographer has to interpret a moment that he or she captured, whereas the painter has that freedom to
Dredge up my childhood whenever I want.
Yes. and you'll see that in these pieces. Again, getting back to Chris's pieces, even though we're both photographers, we did it totally different. I'm more of a literal guy. And Chris, his creativity on some of these pieces, I thought was, Collin and I were looking at them, and it's like, wow, this is insane. But that being said, I think all of us bring something to the table. I'm really into light. I'm really a fine art landscape photographer, but also architecture. But this is the first time I've been in a building that really scared the behemoths out of me when you're in there alone.
Let's board it up. It's really dark.
It's dark in there.
And at some point, it was used as a haunted house for a while, like a commercial,
for
Halloween
good reason,
time haunted house. So there's curious things in there.
Where'd you get your light? I mean, how did you pack heavy with your gear and stuff when you were in there all day, or did you?
I shot with a fast lens, semi. I did not bring any additional lighting with me. I don't work with that. I'm going to have the honor of shooting Collin's daughter's wedding in November, and I'm just coming with my cameras. But I believe in capturing the moment and the light. Sometimes that light in there was, you would get beams through, and it'd be like, oh, this is freaking awesome.
There were some long exposures that day.
Yes,
very long exposures that day.
Yeah, I think in the digital age, and this was not necessarily possible in the analog time, film, is that some of these photographs that we shot, and I think we all did this, were really, really dark rooms. I mean, you might see slivers of light coming in through, the edge of a busted window pane or something. And then you do have the beauty of getting back on your computer and just bumping up that exposure, and it's things just come out at you, and the screen is like, there is no way I saw these things.
That's when the ghosts started showing up.
Exactly what I was going to say. It's almost a ghostly thing that's happening. Yeah.
I thought I saw ghosts in Mark's work, and then it turned out that he was shooting me without my knowledge.
You were moving through the frame of the long exposure.
But the funny thing about that, yes, I did capture Collin, and Collin found the wasp nest. You remember you found the wasp nest there?
I found a wasp once because I was looking closely in my camera, and suddenly I realized that it wasn't like beyond the lens, it was actually on the screen 4 inches from my eye.
So tell me about this old building. So those of us having to, spend a whole day in it. Why was it always going to be the old buildings? I mean, what was special about that?
Ogden's in transition in a lot of ways. I mean, it's been trying to transform itself economically for a long time. It was, it was a prosperous town in the day. It was a rail hub. It's, the exchange building and the stockyards came into creation because Ogden was a railhead. The stockyards, Chris spent a lot of time on the big chalkboard in the main entry of the exchange building because it lists all these places with stockyards. What's the price for cattle in Kansas City right now? I can't remember all of the places. But Chris is an economist. That's what he really does. He should be just doing art, but
eating is good.
Eating is good. The reason we wanted to go with these transitional buildings is because we don't know where it's going. The city, I think the city is clearly leaning toward trying to get rid of them. I think they've been a troublesome point for redevelopment, and I think the historical committees, societies, folks have been a thorn in their side regarding that. The history of the city is complicated, and if what you're really about is economic redevelopment, in some ways, I don't like to think that we're just going to throw it out with the bathwater. But sometimes I get that feeling that would be easier in some people's mind. it would be fun to. I love old spaces. I spent time growing up. Some of my time growing up in Cleveland in the '70s. It was pretty gritty. And I would take the train downtown, and boy, it was a rust and concrete playground.
Municipal Stadium.
Oh my God. And Cleveland's not the same anymore. I've gone back in recent years. My father still lives there. And gentrified isn't the right word, but it's not that rusty rebar playground of my youth.
There is something to be said for that. And I like how you turned it into the playground, because I remember a lot of dirt, a lot of rust. I remember, these are the playgrounds that I grew up in the Midwest and Missouri and Kansas City area. And you can't, you don't find that anymore. At least I don't see it as much anymore. I do appreciate, what you've done. I can't wait to see the exhibition. But as far as drawing attention, to these old spaces, because if it was up to me, we would keep them all. That's my favorite parts of this town, are the ones that have been saved.
And there's been some success stories with, look at the Mayor Can building.
Oh. When I moved to Ogden, I wanted to own that building so bad.
That's one of my favorite buildings in town.
I fantasized about that building all the time, and the now it's going to be the Monarch.
Yeah.
But I fantasized about that. If I'd had the money, I would have bought it. And
these are good fantasies.
Yeah,
these are good fantasies.
The kind my wife supports.
I'd say on that note, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking some time. Amy, thank you so much for the delicious food and drink and company. Thanks for having us out here on the Wick porch.
Again, the show runs through November?
Through November. This will be released a little bit into the show, but we'll do our best to get as many people as we can into the show. I'm excited to see a show like this at the Eccles Art Center. It's a little different than what I usually see over there, and that's exciting. I'm sure that's exciting for you guys as well.
It is.
Absolutely.
Anything else we should know before we?
I just have one question. Is this a thing, or should we expect more from the three of you as a collaborative?
No,
venture?
we've all decided to give up art.
No,
this is it.
Individually, you're done. This is the mic drop moment. Go see Relative Truth.
Would you guys work together again?
I can't wait.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
good.
would be great. Actually, Collin and I have worked together in the past.
Oh,
it was
perfect.
a blind date. I really do find it funny. Well, no, it's funny
I don't
because
know if I want the details. I kind of like that.
Here you
Yeah.
go. There you go.
We were set up. It was a setup. Alicia Washington.
Nice.
Put us into her theater space between shows.
Yes. But here's the thing. Collin is an established
Anytime a
painter
story
here.
starts with "here's the thing,"
Collin is known here. He has a reputation, and he has a very good reputation. You have to keep in mind, I have been overseas for 22 years. So Collin actually had absolutely no idea whether I sucked or not, basically. So we didn't get into this until after we had a couple of glasses of wine, but I found it hilarious.
We were setting up the show.
We were setting up the show, and then we looked at it, and I was like, oh, my God, he actually took a risk on me. But when he saw my work, he was like, okay, this is okay.
that's what being an artist is all about, though. You obviously you did good.
No, but I understand his perspective, too, because I've done shows in Germany. And if somebody has bad art, it can really track a show down. It really can. But we just kind of fed off each other.
Good
The
advice,
energy was
everyone.
good. So, no, that was fun. It was a fun meeting. And that's why I was looking so forward to actually doing this collaboration. And Chris and I have shot together before as well. So, no, this is fun. Yeah, it's work, but it's fun.
I think that describes most of what we do. I like that right there. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate you. Good luck with the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.
And
Please
can't wait for the
come
next
out.
one.
Joining us in the Gear 30 Lounge was Susan Campbell. And
We are movers and shakers, my friend.
That's true. And Dr. Carey Campbell, Associate Professor of Music at Weber State University, to talk about the upcoming show from Next Ensemble, their 55-minute holiday opera, Amahl, a family-friendly holiday opera that's playing downtown. It'll be, I think it's one night, but 2 shows.
One night, 2 shows at the Bigelow Ballroom.
Bigelow Ballroom. I knew nothing about this opera at all, and I guess it's a piece that was originally designed to be a television show, as Carey will explain in this upcoming interview. So.
Spoilers.
That is a spoiler alert. Yeah, so this is a great opportunity to get out this holiday season and enjoy something local and within the spirit of the happenings going on at this time of year. So this is our interview with Susan Campbell and Dr. Carey Campbell.
Today we are with Next Ensemble. I'm glad we were able to line this up. I think you first approached me about this like a month ago, longer.
Yeah,
2
about
months ago. It just shows you how long into the planning stages you get. So when something is essentially done, how many events ahead are you usually at a time? How good are you guys at planning ahead?
Not very good. I'm working on the concert that's happening tomorrow still. So yeah.
So there's a concert tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah, there is. Are you going to be there?
I love that. Now, we're going to be talking about the event that already happened by the time this comes out. And so, how was the event? So we're talking as if it just happened, yeah?
I was brilliant.
It's some of the best work I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Like, without a hitch. There was no emergencies.
Yeah.
The turnout was amazing.
Yeah, we had 40,000 people there, I think.
40.
Yeah.
They just kept coming and coming. The fire marshal showed up. It was chaos.
We're really hoping that doesn't happen because last year we would have gotten in a bit of trouble, I think.
Is that an issue sometimes?
Well, at the Bigelow Hotel, there was, I think, close to 400 people in that ballroom. And it was an amazing turnout, and people loved the show. And we were surprised that for the first year we had gotten 400 people, but it was very crowded.
I'm sure you are extremely excited, before we get too far into this, to do a quick little introduction of yourselves. I mean, we know you very well, but we'll just get it over with. I know you're very excited to do this. What happens is, by the time that we are done with this conversation, you'll be like, all right, let's get started. I'm ready. I can handle this. You'll be super comfortable by the end. And so the spotlight is on you. Just tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Susan Campbell. I'm the executive director of Next Ensemble. I was the initial executive director 4 years ago when Next Ensemble kicked off, and I took a year off last year to pursue another opportunity that turned out not to be so great, and I was able to come back and slide back into the role of executive director.
Round two.
Yeah. This time I plan on getting a gold medal, or a little O.
I like that. Yeah.
So
those little O's are kind of nice.
Yeah, they were cute. I wasn't able to go though. So I have a background in arts administration. I just finished my degree down at SUU. So
we'll have to talk about that in a minute, because that's one that I'm actually very interested in.
Oh yeah, it's great.
That's one that Taylor took. Also,
yeah,
I think
I'm the reason. Yeah, he
got
into
small
that.
Community. I love it. Yeah, so we'll talk about that later. Okay.
So I'm a musician, a flutist by trade. So I play with Next Ensemble occasionally, and also Chamber Orchestra Ogden. I've worked at Ogden Symphony Ballet Association, so I feel like I know the performing arts here in Ogden quite well. And
well, it sounds like it. And then this nice gentleman next to you.
My name is Carey Campbell. I am here to hold Susan's purse.
I was wondering why you had the same last name.
Yeah.
It's coincidence. This is how we work out these shows.
In addition to that, for Next Ensemble, I'm the artistic advisor, which I don't really know what that means, but they wanted to give me a title.
Titles are good.
Because I've been involved. But
do you want me to look it up online to make sure that's the right one?
No. I serve as the host for the concerts.
Excellent.
We like to, rather than just sort of playing a piece and then people clap and then we play another piece and then people clap, my job is to kind of connect the dots between the pieces, not only between the pieces, but also between the pieces and the audience. So I try to relate the pieces that they're playing to events today, or make the events of the past sort of relevant. And so that's sort of my job, is to bring the audience into
Well, I would
the
say that's a
music.
very important job, particularly for people that are not familiar with the styles of music.
Mhm.
Some people do feel a distance immediately.
Yeah.
Even if it's not there, they still feel that.
Mhm.
And so making that connection, they can just really kind of enjoy themselves and not feel so nervous about things.
Yeah, I feel like one of my life's work has been sort of connecting audiences with performers, and trying to get people to embrace all musics.
Yes. We
Yeah.
talked about that a little bit when we were
Yeah.
talking before. Yeah. Okay, so I want to make sure and talk a little bit about the event that we're here for. And I'll probably mispronounce it. So what's it called?
Amahl and the Night Visitors.
Amahl and the Night Visitors. And this is a performance that's coming up in December.
It's on Sunday, December 9th. We're having 2 performances this year because, as I mentioned a little bit ago, last year we were sold out. It was crazy packed. So this year we're having 2 performances, one at 4 p.m. and then a little bit of a break for our musicians and at 7 p.m.
And it'll be same performance.
Yes, exactly. It'll be, it's an American written opera by, is it Carl Minotti?
This is my department.
Yeah,
Giancarlo Minotti.
Minotti.
Giancarlo Minotti. He sounds Italian, but he's American.
And so
He was destined for it.
Yeah.
With a name like that.
it'll be sung in English, so you'll be able to understand it. It's this.
Okay, I can do. Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to study all weekend and stuff. You'll be ready. Yeah.
It's fully staged, so it's a very small opera. It was originally written for a TV production, and so it's very relatable. And it's the story of the 3 kings. Maybe I should let you do the story part of it. You want to tell them what the story is?
Yeah. What's this about?
Well, I want to add on to the. I'll do that in a minute.
Yeah.
But I want to add on to the whole like
I
it
like
was
Carey.
broadcast on
He
TV
just takes over.
thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this was like the first American opera written for television,
Well, that's significant.
and it was premiered in 1951, and it was actually commissioned by the NBC network. So the NBC network paid Minotti to write this opera for television, and it first appeared on December 24th. So
Wow.
what is that? I hear that's Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of
And-
important.
Yeah. and so it ran for years and years and years as a Christmas Eve tradition on the NBC channel. And we're hoping to kind of revive that as a Christmas tradition here in
I
Ogden.
absolutely love that story. That's awesome.
Yeah, there were lots of, at the last performance of it, there were lots of people of a certain age who came up to me and were like, I remember watching this on TV.
Wow.
Like it was something that we did every Christmas Eve.
Traditions
It's-
have changed. I think, what is it with me? It's Christmas Story and
Elf.
Elf. Elf is always in there.
Mhm.
Die Hard. That's often in there too. It's totally different, but
Yeah.
that's
But it happened at Christmas. Yeah.
what else we got in there that I try to see each time?
The
Scrooged is great. Scrooged is one of my favorite. Bill Murray's Scrooged. Oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
just so
Christmas
good.
Vacation.
Christmas Vacation. The list has gotten longer than it probably was back
Rudolph.
then.
Yeah, the traditional Rudolph I really like. The
Like
original.
the stop motion, stop motion one.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that one was like around the same time as
It
this.
probably was around that time.
Yeah.
Or that, or it displaced this opera on TV.
It's the enemy of this particular opera. Yeah.
Right. So the plot of this thing, it's based on the story of, the birth of Christ and the wise men coming and all of that. But rather than focusing on the Christ child, it focuses on the wise men. But it actually doesn't focus on the wise men. It actually focuses on this little boy who they come to visit on their way to see the Christ Child. Only they don't really come to visit. What they do is they sort of show up and say, "Hey, we need to."
Storyteller ever.
Hey, we need
like
to.
Memento style.
Thank you. We need to. We need to stay somewhere for the night. We need some food. We need some water. How about you and your mom, who's raising you, take us in for the night?
Mm.
And so they're like, okay. And things don't exactly go as planned. And then everything works out in the end.
So it's a happy ending.
It is a happy ending.
Now, how big is your cast?
I have no idea.
3. I'm guessing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Probably, you said relatively small.
There's 5 soloists, so the 3 kings, the mother, and then we do have a young man. I'm not sure of his age. I think he's 9 or 10, and he's from St. Joe's. He's singing the part of Amahl, so a young boy soprano.
Amahl is the little boy that.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Amahl's a little boy. So we have that cast of 5, and then we do have the townspeople come in and singing, and that's the Weber State Alumni Singers. Is that their proper title?
Awesome.
But they did it last year, and they're doing it again this year. So the cast ends up being about 40 people, but 5 soloists, and then we have a 24-piece orchestra. So a small orchestra.
This is quite the production.
Yeah, it was huge to take on last year. I sort of did some of the planning before I jumped ship for that year and let them do it for the first time. But yeah, it was a huge effort considering a lot of our performances are, 2 to 6 players at most. And so now all of a sudden we have, 80 people.
Is the boy playing Amahl this year the same as the boy from last year?
Yes. It'll be the same. I think the cast is the same except for the mother is a different.
Well, that's a
mother.
neat tradition as well.
Yeah, Menotti was really, really specific that the role of Amahl should be sung by a boy rather than a woman, because it's for a soprano voice.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than have a woman sort of dress up like a boy, he wanted an actual boy. That was really important to him. And so we're excited to give this guy another opportunity. I guess eventually we'll have to find someone else, but
yeah.
I think that you can play him off for just maybe another year.
Yeah.
And then just kind of teach him to kind of hit those spots. So tickets on sale now?
Yes, they are on brown paper tickets, or you can go to Next Ensemble's website or Facebook. Please
now,
like us on
Facebook. Are you working with the corner yet?
We have not. I haven't officially set up anything with them, but you can find us online for the time being. Yeah.
Easy enough to find, I'm
Can
sure.
they get tickets at the door?
Oh, yes, of course they can get tickets at the door. It's $10 for adults, and children are free. So we want it to
really
be
cheap for this performance. That's a big performance for $10.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully, RAMP is supporting it, they're a huge supporter, as is the Ogden State Arts Grants and Bank of Utah. So all 3 of those are supporting this particular performance. It's happening, right downtown Ogden. That's where Next Ensemble wants to be performing. We want to bring our music, into the heart of Ogden.
Which is what, because I was playing with the dials, I missed the place and the date.
So it's at the Bigelow Hotel.
Yes.
And I'm not as familiar. I've taken some tours there, but do they have multiple ballrooms? One of their big ballrooms?
They only have one ballroom, as far as I know. Yes, they only have one ballroom. It's on the 2nd floor. There's an elevator, and we will have handicapped seating for anyone who needs it. But yeah, there's just one ballroom. It's on the 2nd floor, and
it's awesome. I've been,
Oh, it's beautiful.
It really is beautiful, and
the detail around the ceiling. That's what I remember.
Right,
right.
Thing.
Exactly.
And it was packed. I think it's a big ballroom.
Yeah, it was so packed. Well, we had a rather large stage for basically the house that Amahl and his mom live in, and then we had the orchestra in that area, and so they took up, at least a third of the ballroom.
We had a nice kid seating area in front of the stage, like right in
nice.
front of the stage.
The stage in front of the windows? On the, or the
No,
other side?
we had to do it the long way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But this is a true Nine Rails Creative District project. I mean, it is ideal for our program. But what an amazing night this would be, because you could check out the show. You could go check out the Christmas Village right across the street. I mean, this could become a real tradition for people.
Yeah, it's not a terribly long opera, and it'll get out in time for people to go check out the village and then go to dinner after. And
I think it sounds perfect.
Have a good time.
Yeah.
Or do dinner first and then come to the opera, and you still have time to get home. Get your
especially
kids
now
to bed.
having the two different times as well.
Or do dinner and then go to both operas and then and then go to dinner afterwards.
Is this
or how much time between the operas? Because you could go to an opera, you could grab a little something, go to the second opera.
I think you could if you were really that committed.
I like all of the choices.
I think I will probably be one of those people doing that option.
You probably will.
Yes.
Now, who should we be thanking behind the scenes, other than, of course, the two of you?
Well, Ramp, obviously. Ramp.
Yes, thank you, Ramp. In fact, I think I have my Arts of the Park shirt on as well.
Yeah.
So,
Weber County
thank you very
Ramp, a huge supporter of the arts, and thankfully have supported both performances of this, and hopefully will continue. Bank of Utah is a huge supporter of Next Ensemble in this performance in particular. Ogden City Arts. We do receive funding for general operating costs from the Utah Division of Arts and Museums, which is also funded by the National Endowment for the Arts. So we have all those financial supporters. Weber State has been extremely supportive with the alumni choir helping us, and the costume shop, Department of Performing Arts. So the costume shop has... they've always found us students to help us with the costumes, and then we rent our costumes from them.
Now this is a real collaborative piece, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, any large work like this for a small organization has to be.
I mean, that's the cool thing about opera, is it kind of combines a lot of art forms. I mean, there's, clearly there's like storytelling and singing and acting, but also there's carpentry. Somebody has to build a set. Somebody has to build the costumes. It's sort of everything all wrapped together.
Now, speaking about opera, so this might be somebody's first opera. What should they know about a little bit? You're a good person to ask when it comes to that.
And where?
Yes, what should we wear for this occasion? Is it, it sounds very approachable, but there is a certain stereotype about the opera, going to the opera. What should we know about before we go?
One of the defining features of opera is that it's sung throughout. It's sung the entire time. So a lot of people have been to like Broadway shows, and in Broadway shows, when people talk to each other, they talk to each other like this, like we are, and then they sing a song.
And then you break into song.
Yeah,
right.
But with opera, the singing is throughout. So that's one thing to expect. This opera in particular, it's a neat twist on a familiar story. So I don't think that, and it's in English, so I don't think that the storyline will be hard to follow. In terms of when to clap and all of that, follow everybody else.
Nice.
Just do what everybody else does.
I'll be looking over towards you guys.
And you'll be fine.
Just look in my direction, because I always know the right times. Yeah. Always. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, in that Next Ensemble, we don't scold anybody or give them dirty looks for clapping. We want people to be comfortable. And if you appreciated a solo that happens in the middle, clap. And we will be thankful, because you're appreciating the music, you're interacting with the art. And
yeah, nobody we work with will ever like turn down applause. Yeah. Like there's never a bad time to show appreciation.
We might stop the music and just bow and smile at you.
We'll just take it. Yeah.
In terms of what to wear, well, Amahl will be dressed in rags, and the wise men will be in crowns and stuff. The orchestra will probably be in all black, and some of the audience will be in shirt and tie. Others will be in shorts and a t-shirt.
Not too many of
in
them
December.
in Ogden.
I don't
Shorts
know
and a
until
long
you see
sleeve
too many,
t-shirt.
yeah, and a beanie. As long as they got the beanie and their Uggs,
then they're
they'll be
good.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so the point is, there's no dress code.
Yeah.
We want you to be comfortable. We want you to be.
So I'm
there.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
In my bright flannel.
And then, throw on a winter coat and go see the Christmas Village
I like it.
afterwards. Yeah.
I think I might dress up a little, though.
No.
Put a tie. I want to see a tie on that shirt right there. You can do that and make that work. That
There's no
would be
solid
fantastic.
print in the world that would look good, I don't think, next to this, but I could try.
So you have an event tomorrow. You have an event in December. Are you working on the next one, or are you just going to kind of take this?
So we do have our season planned out. The event tomorrow, which will be in the past for sure. I'm assuming, Brandon, you won't be.
Yes, this will come out
okay.
next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a Veterans Day concert. We've actually already performed it 3 other times, so I can say it's a spectacular performance. So you missed it, and you missed a good one, people. Yeah. But you two
I
have
thought
a
it was
chance.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then in January, we have our annual New Year, New Music concert. And that will feature a few different local musicians. Carey is composing an electronics piece for it. And we have Taylor Arnold, who is a former Weber alumni. He is at NYU working on a graduate degree in composition.
Oh, wow.
So he is writing a piece for us. And Crystal Young Otterstrom, who is from the Utah Cultural Alliance. She's the executive director of that. She is also, I believe, board president for Salty Cricket Composers Alliance. And they're celebrating their 10th anniversary. And in that, they're doing collaborations with organizations, and she'll be composing a piece for Next Ensemble as part of that collaboration. So we're all about working with people.
Yeah. So depending on when all of us composers get started, the pieces could be written just like a month or so before the concert.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's the new part, I'm guessing. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
the new
fresh.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an annual tradition for us, this New Year, New Music thing, presenting new works for a new year.
And we try to get as many local composers as we can.
Or
to
ties,
participate.
which is fantastic, too. Ties to Ogden.
Yep.
The fact that they're off getting their master's degree in New York or something like that.
Yeah.
That's inspiring as well. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. And then March is Women in Music. It'll be a woodwind quintet and women composers, mainly, I think, U.S. women composers.
Yeah, women composers, only women composers, who have been, women as composers have always been around, but they've been kind of erased from classical music history. And so
that's female artists in general, kind of to some degree.
So we're, we present an annual concert, trying to bring awareness to women composers, both past and present.
And performed by all females.
Yeah, and performed by all females too.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then our last concert of the season will be Music Without Borders. And I'll actually let Carey talk about that one a little bit. If he
I'm trying to
borders.
picture what that would be.
Yeah. Last year we did a Music Without Borders concert, and we were thinking geographical borders. And so we had classical music from various places other than Europe and America. For this one, we're thinking about social borders. And so we'll have pieces by LGBTQ plus composers. We will be trying to present a racially diverse program, exploring the kinds of things the kinds of musics that people don't get to hear in a typical classical concert, mainly because of things like racism, sexism, transphobia, etc.
Again, it's all about making those connections with the audience. Now, most of these other events that you've been mentioning, where are these going to be performed?
These are all at Alleged, so on 25th Street. The dates are, well, I think it would be easiest for people to go to nextensemble.org
Sure, yeah.
and find the dates, or follow us on Facebook.
Where do you set up at Alleged?
In Moxie's, so on the first floor. It's before they turn it into a nightclub. So we arrange the couches. It's really comfortable and cool atmosphere. You can grab a drink and sit down and enjoy some music.
Yeah, the bar stays open through the whole concert, so people are
Most importantly.
are free to walk up and get a drink in the middle of a piece if they feel like it. They won't be bothering anybody.
You are truly taking the music to the people
Yeah.
in in their natural environment.
They took it to the van.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we couldn't appreciate you any more with what you do. I'm very excited for this particular opera piece. Anything else we need to know about Next Ensemble?
Well, we do something kind of strange. We do.
I think we could have prefaced that, but that's pretty much,
So we always have a community partner. And for the past 2 years, we chose to partner with Youth Impact. And this year it's the Ogden Nature Center. And it's not, obviously Ogden Nature Center and a chamber music group, how are they going to partner? Our goal is to connect the people with their community also. And so the Nature Center comes to our concerts, a representative from the Nature Center, and always speaks and tells people about what they're doing. And that's what happened with Youth Impact the previous year. And also, that when you're buying a ticket for entertainment, you're not just buying, personal entertainment for yourself. A portion of that ticket is going back to our partner organization to give back to the community and, create a community that is getting stronger. Because Ogden, over the past 10 years that we've been here, it has grown so tremendously, and the nonprofits are starting to learn how to collaborate. And, through amazing work like your podcasts, we're learning about each other, and so that's one of the things that we're doing is.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I don't think I knew that. Has that been since the inception pretty much?
Yes, that has. So one Heart Worldwide was the first organization, and I'm not exactly sure. Gabriel Gordon and I co-founded it together, but it was really Gabe was the brainchild for this organization, and so it was a connection that he had initially with One Heart Worldwide that started that tradition, and then we chose Youth Impact, and we're working on branding and sort of solidifying what that means and how we talk about it, so we can share that message more with the community and let them know.
Have you picked a partner for next year yet?
We are still looking. So in January, I think, is when we'll start figuring out who the partner for our next season will be.
Well, I'm excited to hear about that. I think that's actually a fantastic idea. I love that. Yeah. We need to look up calendar dates, future events, website, Facebook, Instagram, all the things.
Facebook and website are the main two. So nextensemble.org. So NEXT ensemble.org. And on Facebook, you can find us by that name. We also have an app.
Wow.
We're really cool.
Yeah, stepping up.
Yeah. So that you can find on any mobile device. Just look up Next Ensemble and pull up our app, and you'll get little alerts a day or two in advance of the concert that say, hey, remember we have a concert.
Who's running all your social?
That is me. So, yeah.
I love it. Sometimes it's fun to know. So I know that what's on the other side. Who's
right. Who you're talking to.
Our app is kind of cool. You can get information on the artists. You can get information on the work. We have the little back channel that's active during the performance.
Oh, nice.
And so it's just like a little feed, and people can post questions or post comments or whatever, and then I answer them either privately on the app, or if I think it's sort of good for everybody to hear, then I'll get on the mic.
That's a really
and
good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think when we develop the app further.
The Banyan app is in development right now.
But that actually is a really good idea for a feature. Yeah.
Yeah, ours is through a company called Instant Encore. So it's...
I like the name of that company. That's pretty great, yeah.
It's not something we actually developed, but we're taking advantage of it. And
Sure.
look like the cool kids.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's what we're all trying to do.
And we get to tell people, don't turn off your phone during the concert. They're like...
Yeah, the back channel is great because I get to answer people's questions that they might not otherwise feel comfortable asking someone. Like, what instrument is that guy in the red shirt holding? Mm-hmm. You know, they might not.
Yep.
You know, and rather than sit and wonder that the whole time,
can you nudge the guy second from the right because he's starting to doze off just a little bit?
Right.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
I look forward to another conversation, but anything else? Yeah, I think we probably hit most of the bases there.
Shout out to Gabriel Gordon. He's the artistic director.
Yes, sir. Here in spirit.
Yeah, he had a sick child today, so yeah, those kiddos.
Brandon?
No, that's great. I can't wait for the pieces. This next season sounds great, and then the holiday performance sounds awesome. So.
Yeah, it's great for families. So people loved it. So yeah, if you can make it, please.
Kids love to see other little kids on stage. Like that's just a thing.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
You know, they love to see other kids on stage, and it can be inspiring to them.
Yeah.
So bring the little ones.
Yeah. We'll be there. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We are down here at the Illuminate Festival at the Gateway. We have a van in front of Abercrombie and Fitch.
Well, technically, it's in front of the Urban Arts Gallery.
Yeah, we're actually in front of the Urban Arts Gallery, as it should be, because this is a fantastic event. And we got a handful of people in the van, literally 5 people in the van for some interviews. And so that will be coming up on the next episode of the Nine Rails Arts Podcast.
Yes, definitely not to be missed. An amazing night.
Put a bow on it. That is a wrap for episode 8 of the Nine Rails Arts Podcast, produced by the Banyan Collective, arts and adventure podcasting since 2010. Follow the Nine Rails Arts Podcast on Facebook and also on Instagram at the number 9 for Nine Rails. Search the Banyan Collective on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. This week we'll leave you with a little something from our Van Sessions archives. This is from season 4. It's Ogden musician Branson Anderson.
This one's called Robert Frost. Visions of my heart that don't make sense are piling up. Voices in my head concerning you won't shut up. The weight bears down on me like ugly gold. I don't give up. Give up. I'm lonesome now, but I won't be lonesome long. Wish there's something I could say to make you mine so soft. I won't be ready for the next time our paths cross. And I can write a line, oh, but I'm no Robert Frost. Ooh, I'm no Robert Frost. But I'm lonesome now, but I won't be lonesome long. I drank the wine off your lips and got wasted. finest wine off any lips I'd ever tasted. Eyes as lively as your curls, so full of spunk. I could tell by the way you look that loving you won't be no fun. Your tiptoe walk, your high-held head, all my love's in vain. A girl like you I ought to know could never love a man so plain. Now you can't love every boy like I can't love every girl, but we try. But we'll try. I'm lonesome now, but I won't be lonesome long.
Yeah, Branson Anderson